He would begin to speak out on behalf of the dispossessed, and as he reached out to them, he would transform his sense of himself. In the summer of 1965, riots in Watts, a poor African-American section of Los Angeles, left 34 people dead and more than 1,000 injured. Bobby was shaken.
He bumped into some reporter who asked him what he thought about, should these Negroes, as we called them then, be obeying the law? And he said, I don't know. He said, what did the law ever do for the Negro?
I don't think that it's possible in our society and with our government to tolerate lawlessness and disorder and violence. But at the same time, I think that we've got to make more progress than we have in the past, be more effective with the programs that we've instituted, have some imagination to try to deal with the lack of hope that exists in many of these communities.
In a neighborhood in Brooklyn called Bed-Stuy, Bobby Kennedy meant to show the nation what could be done about poverty.
Bed-Stuy has got tremendous problems of unemployment, drugs, slum housing. And Robert Kennedy was an activist. He wanted to do something about it. He felt it was cheap grace to just make a speech and deplore poverty or racism and not do something about it.
And so he gets involved with the community leadership, and they plan together an initiative that will be not only about housing in the neighborhood, but about jobs and about public safety and about really trying to build a community there.
What we brought together for the first time really is the city, private foundations, the federal government, and I think most significant, the private sector.
When he went to the business people, he didn't say, I want you to give money. I want charity, because that's too easy. That just buys off. What he did was he said, I want investment here. I want you to run business here. I want you to hire people. I want you to make things here.
To have any success in Bedford-Stuyvesant is going to require the initiative and the imagination and the courage of the people who live in the community. The programs are going to have to be developed by the people who live in the community. I think outside...
He believed the core of any program had to be work and self-help and self-mastery. People had to have the wherewithal not to be defined by others, but to be able to define themselves. America's a very rich country. We could just hand out incomes. What he said was that would be profoundly destructive.
He hated welfare, but thought jobs were the solution, not just throwing people off the rolls. He had this empathy, seeing it from the point of view of what it would like to be a black child in a desperate situation with no jobs and no chance of college and broken family and drugs and gangs all around. I grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and I'll never forget one of the days we were going around Bed-Stuy, he said to me, I envy the fact you grew up in poverty and you grew up with black friends. And I said, well, what would have happened to you if you had grown up on this block instead of me? And he looks up and down the block at all of this, poverty and drug addiction and alcoholism. And he says, if I grew up here, I would have either become a juvenile delinquent or a revolutionary.
Robert Kennedy had begun to reach beyond the guarded politics of his brother. John Kennedy had always moved slowly, with caution. Now, Bobby was throwing caution to the wind.